Oh my goodness. Good morning, good afternoon, whatever it is for you. I hope you're having a fantastic day. My name is Zach Schomler. This is Strong Opinion Sports, episode 662. Welcome in. I want to be fully transparent. This is going to be, probably the shortest episode in the history of the podcast. I want to talk about one specific thing. I feel like there's one, two, three things on the list I want to get through today. I want to talk about, kind of mention, we are heading into NFL Week 1. I know there have been 2 games so far. I want to just lay out kind of what the cadence for the NFL season is going to look like. Nathan, the co-host I hired, longtime friend of mine, he is incredible. Him and I both have full-time jobs. And I say that to tell you that I want to be really respectful of Nathan's time. Like, we are very lucky to have him on the show. And the plan is for him and I to do an episode every Tuesday night, which will come out Wednesday morning. So, the week of football will happen Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday night. Him and I convene. We recap everything. We talk about what happened. And then we'll look ahead to the weekend coming up and talk about the things we're excited for. That's the plan for this upcoming Tuesday. My plan for the entire football season is to also record an episode on Thursday night, a very short, supplementary episode, talking about whatever game happened on Thursday night. So Thursday night football, then answering some Patreon questions. And then also on top of that, kind of rounding out anything I feel like we left out from Tuesday's episode, anything I forgot. I haven't really talked about this with Nathan. So theoretically, he's more than welcome to be on that Thursday night show. But the reality is, again, we both have full-time jobs. I don't want to make this podcast his entire life. He's engaged. He's got a life. And so my suspicion is we're going to have one episode on Tuesdays. It's going to be me and Nathan. That'll come out Wednesday mornings, and then Friday mornings we get a very short episode of just me by myself talking about Thursday night football, answering Patreon questions, and then rounding out whatever needs to be talked about or cleaned up from earlier in the week. And this episode is kind of practicing that cadence because we had a rare, I think for the first time ever, a game on Friday night. But remember, me and Nathan did an episode about the opening game of the year, Kansas City, Baltimore. So this is me kind of practicing that cadence. I'm going to talk about the football game that was Friday night, the Packers and the Eagles. I'm going to talk about a couple other things I want to clean up that I feel like need to be talked about since Tuesday. I've got a Patreon question or two, and then we're going to get out of here. It's going to be a very, very short, very much to the point episode. And that's going to be hopefully what you can expect all year long. Friday mornings when you wake up, I realize this will come out Saturday morning, but we're a day behind. It's kind of a weird way the season started. But again, this will be the natural cadence of the show all year long. All right, let's talk about it. Let's talk about the game I want to highlight today on Friday night, not Thursday night football. It was on Peacock. It was very annoying. I got home from work. I'm like, so how do I watch this football game? I opened the YouTube TV app. I'm like, okay, it's not there. It's not on Amazon Prime. Where do I watch this stupid football game? I realized, oh, it's on Peacock. Now, thankfully, my girlfriend's mom has a subscription, so I didn't have to pay for it, thankfully. But I watched the Packers and Eagles game in Brazil. There's a lot, I think, how do I say this? First of all, the Brazilian fan base is really strong. There's a monumental passion, specifically for NFL football there. I know that because a lot of them listen to the podcast. This podcast is probably one of the easier ways for them to find football content. We've got a lot of fans of Strong Opinion Sports in Brazil. I know because they send me messages. And I know from watching engagement on the internet, people in Brazil really care about football. So the fan base was there. They came out strong. They really supported the game. That's really cool and well. One issue with the game Friday night was the field conditions. And, Philly beat Green Bay 34-29. It was an imperfect game. I thought it was actually really fun. It was way better than that Notre Dame Texas A&M game from a couple weeks ago where there was offense, there was scoring, it was back and forth, there was tension. It literally came down to the final play. We'll talk about what happened in that moment. But a big takeaway for me, walking away, whether you're a Philly fan or a Packers fan, neither quarterback looked sharp. Jordan Love didn't look great. Jalen Hurts didn't look great either. Neither quarterback really looked outstanding. And I actually, look, there are things we can come down hard about. I thought Jordan Love was not very accurate. And Jalen Hurts made some really bad decisions. He had 2 interceptions in particular that you're like, ooh, those are throws back across the middle of the field late into traffic. That's not great. I do want to say, in fairness to Jordan Love, there was clearly a lot of problems with finding footing. It was really slippery. People were struggling to make cuts. And when you're watching a quarterback throw and it looks like he's inaccurate, a lot of throws are kind of behind a receiver and he's like a step out of sync. It makes you wonder, how much is the receiver's footing? How much is them having a hard time, literally keeping their footing as they're running around? They're slipping all over the place. How much did that impact what looked like the accuracy of Jordan Love's throwing? Was he actually wildly inaccurate? Or, and wildly is the wrong word there. He was like a step behind his receivers often. An out route was a yard behind. Little things were a little bit off. And I wonder if the footing was actually impacting the accuracy of Jordan Love. And I think both fan bases walked away from this game concerned with their quarterback for different reasons. Jordan Love is okay. I thought he looked really expensive in this game, meaning he signed a massive contract this offseason, and he didn't really look like a guy you spent a ton of money on. He looked okay. He was fine. They had the ball in the fourth quarter. He couldn't score and take the lead. I don't know why you pay a guy a ton of money if not to score in that moment in the fourth quarter with the football. He had opportunities late, didn't take advantage of them. And then even worse, that insult to injury, on the second to last play of the game, Jordan Love got hurt. And we're still waiting to find out what that injury is. I'm sure we'll know by the time Nathan and I record next Tuesday. Not going to lie, you watch the video, looks like his knee buckles, looks like something pops in his knee. My fear is that's a season-ending knee injury for Jordan Love. Hopefully I'm wrong. I want to be wrong. I hope it's minor, but he had trouble getting off the field. He needed a lot of help. He was writhing around in pain. Now, sometimes that's misleading. Isaiah Likely on Thursday Night Football got hurt on 1st and goal. I thought his season was done as well. Then by 3rd and goal, he caught what almost was the game-winning touchdown against Kansas City. So we don't really know. It's going to be a moment we got to wait and see, but initially, my gut reaction is, oh no, that looks like a season-ending knee injury for Jordan Love, which is horrifying and really, really bad news for the Green Bay Packers. So I think Packers fans are really concerned. Jordan Love didn't look super accurate, didn't look great, and then on top of that, might be injured and out for the year. And then Eagles fans watching Jalen Hurts had to be really frustrated because he did some good stuff. There were flashes of brilliance. And there were a lot of moments where, like, he had a couple good runs for first downs. He had a couple good reads, but 3 turnovers on the day. One is not quite his fault. It was a bad snap that's probably more in the center than the quarterback. And then he had 2 interceptions that were just inexcusable. Throws late across the middle of the field. They just weren't open. It was bad news. One was in the end zone, and one was in the end zone like a play or two after nearly throwing a pick 6 earlier. So I thought Jalen Hurts left a lot to be desired, and maybe go like, it's another moment where you've got a quarterback you're paying a ton of money that doesn't look like one of the top highest paid quarterbacks in football. He looks like a guy kind of struggling. So I think quarterback play was a concern. Neither was great. And I want to be fair, though. Let's see. Maybe that was just them having game 1 jitters in a really tough situation, or in Brazil, a long plane ride. It's not a home game for anybody. It's a weird environment. Maybe that played a factor in it. So I want to be fair and patient before I lay down the hammer and come down too hard on Jalen Hurts or Jordan Love. And, any criticism of Jordan Love may not matter at all, because it looks like his season is possibly over for the year, depending on that knee injury. We'll find out down the road. One thing that really stands out is Saquon Barkley. You got to talk about him. Saquon Barkley, the running back who came over from New York, the Giants. First game with Philly, he had 3 touchdowns. He caught a touchdown pass. He had 2 catches for 23 yards and a really impressive touchdown catch for a running back. And then he ran the ball 24 times for 109 yards and 2 more touchdowns. Saquon Barkley, I was skeptical of him. I wouldn't say too skeptical, but there were moments where you're like, how valuable is he really? Hey, Saquon Barkley showed, you give me a good offensive line, you give me a good team around me, I am awesome. He looked fantastic with help around him. Kind of funny how that works. Almost like great players still need support and good people around them. It's pretty painful if you're a Giants fan, watching a team in your division, a rival, your old running back is playing for them and scoring and looking incredible. I am sure Giants fans were at home crying tonight. It's really painful. It's really sad. I was happy. I drafted Saquon Barkley in my fantasy league. And I drafted Xavier Worthy. I drafted Saquon Barkley. I'm feeling really good. He had 3 touchdowns. I'm probably going to win because of that. But if you're a Giants fan, I would imagine you are really, really struggling. So my takeaway from this game, neither team was that impressive. It's hard to judge it. Neither quarterback was that great. I want to wait and see. It's very clear to me Philly's got a lot of playmakers. And I really just want to see Jalen Hurts play a cleaner game. This season is going to live or die with Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts appears to be the limiting factor in Philly, and that's kind of a concern. And I hope that he cleans things up as the year goes on. It's very possible that's game 1 and he'll be better the rest of the year. But if the rest of the year looks like game 1 for Jalen Hurts, we're going to have a problem because they're not going to win big games they need to if he's going to have really bad interceptions and make some bad reads. And some of the throws that could have been picked off were not. And a better defense makes more plays in the football. And Jalen Hurts could have and should have had even more interceptions in this football game on Friday night against Green Bay. Now, I've been promising, I've talked about Philly and the Chargers. I have said there are 2 teams with my NFL predictions that felt not quite right. I want to make adjustments. Let's do that right now. It's kind of cheating because I've now seen Philly play 1 game, but better late than never. My initial prediction for the Philadelphia Eagles was that they were going to go 15-2. I knew very quickly, hey, that feels really high. I just didn't know where to settle. I've been kind of mulling over, what do I think their final record number is going to be? I have landed on 12-5 or 11-6. There's some really tough games for Philly. They play Cleveland, Cincinnati, the Rams, and the Baltimore Ravens. And they're likely going to slip up against a team or 2 they probably shouldn't. I watched Jalen Hurts play tonight on Friday night, and you're like, he's not perfect. You're going to lose a game to a team you shouldn't, like the Giants or Washington and Jaden Daniels. It's going to happen. I'm really confident in that. So I've got Philly going 12-5 or 11-6 this year. I know that's wishy-washy. Deal with it. They're going to win 11 games or 12 games and very comfortably win their division in Philly. But ultimately, Jalen Hurts is a limiting factor of this football team. I felt that going in. I felt like their schedule 15-2. I think I was a little over-eager about their defense, which is a bigger concern than I thought. And 12-5 is a very admirable season for them, but 15-2 was too much, and I took a couple wins away. Now, the LA Chargers are a team I thought I was too low on. Originally, I had the LA Chargers going 4-13. And the reason for that was I didn't love their weapons, and I wondered how long it was going to take before Jim Harbaugh, the new coach, was going to be able to win there. Now, the truth about Jim Harbaugh, he has never taken a very long time to win some games initially. And then you look at the weapons in LA. I think I really overlooked Ladd McConkey, their rookie receiver out of Georgia. Nathan Hawthorne, good friend of mine, normally the co-host of the show, loves Ladd McConkey, says, Zach, you're too low on him. He's going to be a huge contributor. And the way Jim Harbaugh's offense works, he doesn't need a bunch of superstar receivers. He needs guys that are competent and can do a good job. And he really just kind of talked me into, you're right. Maybe the Chargers are going to win sooner than I thought. So I landed on the Chargers going 8-9. Early on, they play Carolina, Pittsburgh, the Saints. They probably steal a win against a good team that we can't foresee right now. You look at Carolina, especially that game, it's 2 first-year coaches. I think Jim Harbaugh's a better coach with a better team against a worse Carolina team who's do not have as good a quarterback. So it's pretty clear, given everything going on in that situation, you're going to beat Carolina, you're going to beat Pittsburgh, you're going to beat the Saints. I had all 3 of those games as losses early on because of Pittsburgh's defense, because the Saints are established, and because Carolina, I have no idea why I picked Carolina to win that football game. In hindsight, maybe that was stupid. So I've got the Chargers going 8-9. That could be 9-8. I think that's the high end for them. Probably low end, you're looking at a 7-10 season. 7-10 at worst, 9-8 at best. I think it takes some time. I don't think they're going to be a playoff contender this year, but I do believe Jim Harbaugh in LA is going to work. The question is, how quickly will he make the Chargers a contender? I do not believe the LA Chargers are going to be a playoff contender this year in year 1 under Jim Harbaugh, but I do think they win quicker than I initially, predicted. So 8-9 feels right to me. And that's doubling the win total of 4-13, my original prediction, which was, in hindsight, a little bit crazy, a bit out there, and probably wrong. I want to make another prediction, though. Christian McCaffrey, he got listed with there was a calf injury kind of all through training camp, and Nathan actually said to me privately, calf injuries become Achilles injuries. He did exactly predict that. Christian McCaffrey's injury status got labeled now as an Achilles injury. Now, he's going to play on Monday Night Football against the Jets. He's healthy. We're told he's good to go. But I want to make a prediction here. I don't mean to be mean-spirited, but we saw Christian McCaffrey lead the league in rushing last year. He had 272 carries for 1,459 yards. He also had 67 catches for over 500 yards receiving. That means he had a ton of touches last year. He put a ton of mileage on his body. They played all the way until the end of the year. The last game of the year, they played in the Super Bowl. Christian McCaffrey got hit a ton last year, put a lot of mileage on that body. I cannot imagine Christian McCaffrey is going to lead the league in rushing a second year in a row. If he does, dude, respect. That's crazy. I had an opportunity in one of my fantasy drafts this past weekend to draft Christian McCaffrey with the number 1 overall pick. I did not do that because I just can't imagine he's going to follow that up with a second year in a row, leading the league in passing, leading the league or in rushing, it's hard for me not to imagine a slight step down in production from Christian McCaffrey after a massive year. He's already got an injury going into the year. He had 21 touchdowns last year. Let's all, I don't want to take away from what he did last year. Let's celebrate that. It was incredible. But it's also really hard to follow up. And so I'm pretty comfortable saying I think there's going to be a small step back from Christian McCaffrey, the 49ers running back this year, who will not be quite as productive as he was last year, leading the league in rushing and having 21 touchdowns and touching the football a ton all game long, all season long, making a huge impact for the 49ers. So again, I feel very comfortable saying Christian McCaffrey will not repeat as the top dog when it comes to running the football in the NFL. Now, in college football this weekend, number 3 Texas plays at number 10 Michigan. I am very, very confident Texas is going to go to the Big House in Michigan and win. We'll find out. I don't know much more to say. I think Michigan is trying to get over losing Jim Harbaugh. They lost their quarterback. They lost their running back. They lost their Roman Wilson at receiver. They lost a bunch of players all over the field. They're rebuilding and reloading and trying their best. But I think Texas is a much better football team, returning way more starters with more talent. I realize the game is in Michigan, but I still have Texas beating Michigan in Michigan tomorrow morning, Saturday morning in college football, officially week 2 of college football. The only other game this weekend in college football I'm interested in, it's 2 unranked teams that are border rivals. Colorado plays at Nebraska. And man, it's 2 coaches in their second year. You got Matt Rule at Nebraska. You've got Deion Sanders at Colorado. Last year's game was really interesting. Colorado beat Nebraska. It was fun. It was exciting. I do not know what to expect. Colorado appears to be kind of a train wreck. It's very up and down, a crazy roller coaster. I don't know who's going to win this football game, but that's why it's fun. That's why it's interesting. I don't know what to expect, and I'm going to pay attention to it. I'm probably only going to talk about 2 college football games come Tuesday when I sit down with Nathan. Michigan, Texas, and Colorado, Nebraska. We'll see, though. I wonder if any other college football games this weekend are going to make themselves obvious that they're noteworthy and worth talking about. But so far, there's only 2 college football games on my radar that are worth paying attention to this weekend. All right. That's pretty much it, guys. Again, I told you it was going to be a very, very short episode. We talk about the game, the standalone game from Friday night, Packers-Eagles, a couple other little things to clean up. I want to end today's show, though, with questions from Patreon. If you want to support the show, go to patreon.com/Zach Schaumler, patreon.com/Zach Schaumler. Question number 1 today comes from Donovan. He says, what up, HVAC? Zach, Attack Football is officially back, and the podcast is rolling ahead right on track. Okay, enough of the rhymes. They're getting pretty whack. Come on, dude. I hope you're reading this. Doesn't catch any flack. Okay, for real, I'm done now. My name is Donovan, and I'm a Broncos fan. After enduring Russell Wilson for the past 2 years, we now have rookie quarterback Bo Nix, whom we drafted number 12 overall. What are your expectations for Bo Nix this year? And what are the possibilities he surpasses them? Expectations for Bo Nix. I expect him to be okay. I think he's going to be productive. I think he's going to look, if Bo Nix can get through the year, start every game, not look awful, be competitive, score some points, I'd be really happy. I actually have pretty low expectations, just given that I think it's fair to him. He's a rookie. He's got a lot on his plate. But I expect him to look hopeful and good. And I think maybe the best way to make this prediction, because I can't give you a yards totals, a touchdown totals, an interception total. I don't know. I think he's going to look all right. I think he's going to get the ball out of his hands very quickly. He's going to be efficient. And I think come January 2025, Broncos fans are going to feel like, yeah, we found the right guy. Even if it takes a while, it might be a slow start. I'm not really sure. I think by the end of the year, there's going to be an overwhelming feeling, yeah, we found our right guy. We found a guy who works really well with Sean Payton. We found a guy who gets the ball out quickly. He's really accurate. He can extend plays a little bit. I've got pretty cautious, measured expectations for Bo Nix. I think it's possible. It's going to be really interesting. I think Denver has a shot to finish second in their division behind Kansas City. It's probably Denver or the Chargers. I'm not really sure which team yet is going to be second, but it's going to be a battle and an interesting one. And if Bo Nix can make that battle interesting and make it close and maybe even actually make the Denver Broncos the number 2 team in their division, I think everyone in Denver is going to feel come January, like I said, hey, we got the right guy. Awesome. We can take a deep breath and go, okay, whew, the quarterback position is solved. We got a good coach. We got a good quarterback. If that can be the feeling in January 2025, that is a job well done by Bo Nix. Devin wants to say on Patreon, Devin says, I'd just like to point out that Joe Milton has so far been a great example of your idea of taking flyers on physically gifted quarterbacks in later rounds. So he's talking about a quarterback who's drafted, Joe Milton, I believe in the 6th round by the Patriots. They drafted Drake May early in the 1st round. They drafted Joe Milton way late in the draft. Joe Milton he's a massive dude. He's got a cannon for an arm. He's incredibly talented. And I will say, normally, Devin, I would agree with you that, hey, Joe Milton looks awesome and there's some promise there. Maybe you can trade him down the road. However, I would actually push back in one aspect. A lot of teams could have gotten away with drafting Joe Milton. For example, the Dallas Cowboys, who've got a quarterback, Dak Prescott, they don't seem to want to pay. Drafting Joe Milton would have been genius. You love that idea. Or what about the 49ers if Brock Purdy gets hurt? Or what about the Seattle Seahawks who don't seem to have an answer after Geno Smith? There's a lot of teams that could have used a number 2 quarterback that is talented and maybe could have got reps. Maybe the Vikings could have drafted him behind J.J. McCarthy. I don't know. Although maybe that's antithetical to what I'm about to say, which is this. I think, unfortunately, the New England Patriots created a controversy by drafting 2 rookie quarterbacks, especially one that is incredibly gifted physically like Joe Milton is. New England accidentally, inadvertently created a quarterback controversy and made the life of their young rookie quarterback, Drake May, much harder. Drake May was drafted to become the franchise quarterback in the 1st round. They've got high hopes and expectations for him. But by drafting a guy who is physically as impressive as he is, and they're both rookies, you just made everyone kind of compare them constantly. And I'm not going to lie to you. Not very many quarterbacks on planet Earth are going to compare in a physical specimen battle in shorts at practice to Joe Milton. Joe Milton is that good at what he does. He's got a huge arm. He's very impressive watching him in gym shorts. Unfortunately, when things go live, we saw in college, he's not the same quarterback. And there's time for that to change. He's in the NFL. He's not doing school anymore. Maybe as a full-time NFL quarterback, Joe Milton gets better. My point is this. I think the Patriots actually did a disservice to Drake May by bringing Joe Milton onto the roster. It was an unnecessary misstep, kind of shooting themselves in the foot, accidentally creating a controversy that just did not need to be there at all. By the way, if my eyes are closed a lot this episode, it is 3:06 in the morning. I have no excuse. I got home from work. I was tired. I worked until 10 o'clock. I got home. I played Fortnite with Logan, who you saw on the show a couple weeks ago. And I kind of took some time to relax. I watched a football game. I played Fortnite. It's now 3 in the morning. The night got away from me. I'm recording the episode, doing the best I can. If I seem off, I actually feel normal and great. I'm just tired, ready for bed. But it was really important to me to do this and kind of get this cadence going. And so if I look tired, I am, but I promise you I'm fine. My eyes are just kind of droopy because it's now 3:07 in the morning. Dustin writes in and says, "Hi, Captain Zach Sparrow. I am in need of some career advice and was hoping you could help. I'm 24 years old and I work at Walmart. I make $20 an hour, but I don't think I want to work there my entire life as I've already worked there for 5 years. I'm saving up money to go to trade school, but I'm having a hard time deciding which one I should pursue. My stepdad wants me to get my CDL, but I don't really want to do that. I'm leaning towards HVAC, but I'm not great in small places. Plus, from what I could find online, it seems like you need years of school to get certified. Is that true? If so, what should I do? Sorry for the long write-in. If you're ever in Georgia, hit me up and I'll buy you a beer." Dustin, so I work in HVAC, as you know. I never went to trade school. I got my HVAC license in a month after I got hired as an apprentice. Part of that's because I think I work really hard. I'm book smart. I worked my butt off to learn what was required for the test, and I passed it very quickly. My point is this, though. You can get into a trade like HVAC absolutely without going to trade school. You get a job, you work your way up as an apprentice, and you gain respect to your company. And the more you do, the more respect you get, the more opportunities you get. And you can get certified while working in the trade, like I did. Trade school is great. It does give you certain advantages, like you'll have a little easier time finding a job because you'll have a little bit of experience. You'll have your license already, your EPA license. But the reality is, man, there's no better replacement for on-the-job training. And the HVAC world, you can get a job doing that without a certification ahead of schedule. I will say, I early on in my career doing HVAC, they put me immediately into crawl spaces, into attics, crawling around through mud, next to rat poop, next to dead squirrels, whatever, running line sets and doing duct work. And it's kind of how the trade starts. You're going to start in the mud doing the dirty work. That's how it works. If you don't want to do that, maybe HVAC isn't for you. And also, I would recommend you've got a job that you seem okay with. So I would actually, for a while, I would, give it maybe 8 months because it takes a while to get it, accepted. I would consider looking up the IBEW local to you. Sounds like, I think you're in Texas. I don't know why I think that, but that's how it felt to me. Maybe I'm crazy. Oh, Georgia. You're in Georgia. Okay. You're in Georgia. Look up the IBEW for whatever, maybe Atlanta, whatever area you're in. That's the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers. Look up the electricians union near you and apply. Now, it's going to take a while to get accepted into the union, if at all, but usually you can get accepted. I think electrical work is the way to go, man. I love, love, love doing electrical work. Another option, if that takes too long, you can apply to be a lineman, which is the people that do the power lines and literally, kind of work on the power grid in your local area. The world is electrifying. That's the reality. And if you have an electrician's license, you're going to have work the rest of your life. It'll be on and off. One thing I'll tell you is, as a guy, I work in construction. It's very on or off. It's dependent on the economy. It's dependent on when there is and isn't money. And there are going to be stretches of time where there's less work than others. And so you can't just live off your paycheck to paycheck. You got to save some money and live below your means so that when things are slow, you've got extra money saved up to keep you going. But if you're going to work in construction, I consider HVAC a job in construction. It's a trade. I would heavily encourage you to look into being an electrician of some kind, whether that's a lineman or an IBEW, Electricians Brotherhood union electrician, or a non-union electrician where you go be an apprentice and you work your way up and go to trade school. Almost any trade is going to give you free on-the-job training, and you don't have to go to trade school first. You can just, with no experience, show up, say, hey, I'm here, I want to work. And if you're a good worker who works hard, you can move your way up, and they'll pay you to get the schooling and the training required. I cannot recommend the trades enough. I loved it. It reminds me of sports. Loved it. As if I'm out of it. I'm in the trades right now, and there's a sense of camaraderie. I wear a uniform. I get dirty. I crawl through stuff, and it fits me really, really well. It fits my work ethic. I cannot recommend a trade enough. And as a guy who's not an electrician but knows a lot of electricians, that seems like the place to be. I do some electrical work. I can do it. I'm not licensed to do it. And I do it from time to time between you and me. But I would love to have that license, and I don't. So if you can pursue that, I really heavily recommend pursuing and trying to figure out how to become an electrician. It's a great move. The work is much easier on your body than certain other trades. And I find it fascinating and fun. Okay. I think we got 2 left. Let's talk to this. Write-in is from Dialing Up Star Trek. They say, hello, Zach. Hello, Zach Good. Hello, Zach Good feels like broken English, but whatever. I'll just stick with it. Says, I'm a father of 3. 2 of my kids are graduating high school next year. And I think the hardest thing is figuring out, what do you want to do with your life? I was a fool as a young adult and dropped out of my first go-around at college. I finally got it together and went back to school when I was 30. I got an associate's degree, and I'm currently doing medical coding at a state cancer hospital. Do you have any advice for those exiting high school and trying to find their way and career? I have a lot of advice, I think. I really struggled to find my way. I think I went right to college. I took out student loans. I'm paying them now. Thankfully, I'm not very much in debt from college. I encourage everyone graduating high school at 18, be thoughtful what your next move is. Don't put yourself into a ton of debt without a plan to pay for it and take care of that after the fact. I put myself into debt, and I didn't have a job that came from that, and that was scary and weird. And I had a weird journey too, because I dropped out of college because at one point I was a really successful YouTuber who I'm not now. I make some money. I'm okay, but YouTube is not my full-time job. I had to find a career on the side of YouTube. So be thoughtful before you go into debt. And if you go to school with a plan. Go to school. I was in school to go to school. I didn't have a goal after school. If you're going to go to college with a job in mind, a place you want to end up at, how you want to use the degree, and what you want to do with it. I think about going back to college sometimes. I've got kind of an idea how I would do that. My advice is to really be thoughtful. Don't rush into things. It's okay. Like you went back to school later in life. That's okay. There's no right timeline for anybody. Sometimes not knowing what you're doing is okay to admit, and don't, out of desperation, just go apply to colleges and take out massive loans without a plan on how to use it. That's what I did, and it didn't work very well for me. It just put me in debt, and I didn't get much out of it. If I went back to school again, I would go to school with a plan and with a goal for the degree and a job I wanted based on the degree I was getting. Now, also think about, I want to have a family someday. I want to own a house someday. I think a lot about stability. Pursue a career field that is interesting, sure, but also is going to be stable. For example, the medical field is a really, really stable career field because, hey, when the economy's bad and there's fewer people doing construction, whatever, like I work in, the medical field is never going anywhere. There's always going to be people who break their bones or are sick or need help or need some kind of whatever. The medical field is one of the most stable places you can work in this American economy. And consider that, whether that's dental work, imaging, nurse, there's a lot of jobs beside doctor in the medical field you can do. And it's really, really stable work. And as a guy now who wants a family and a house, those are the kind of things I think about that I was not thinking about when I was 18. So be really thoughtful, take your time, don't be in a hurry. And it's okay to have your own timeline, and try not to compare yourself to everybody else. Because I know now I make really good money. I make more money than a lot of my friends that went to college. And the way I got there was the craziest, weirdest way to do it. Not every path is the same. Don't compare yourself to everybody else, and do what's right for you. But be thoughtful and take your time Don't just rush off to college and take out a massive student loan without a plan how to use a degree you're paying for. Because you are paying for it, even if you're 18, you're signing papers, and there's no money coming out of your account right now. You cannot bankrupt, you cannot write off, you cannot get rid of student loans. If you take them out, you're on the hook for them forever. It's the only type of loan you cannot go bankrupt from. It's the only type of loan you cannot get rid of. So I heavily recommend be thoughtful before you take out a student loan. Final question of the day. Jeffrey says, hello, Zach and your eyeballs. Since I know you love giving it out, I need some relationship advice. Recently, a new person started at my work, and we seem to really have hit it off. We've only talked a handful of times, but the conversations have been really great. And overall, she seems like a super sweet and awesome woman. My predicament is this. I've always been a little on the fence about workplace relationships. So I'm not 100% sure if I should go after this or not. However, something recently that might be swaying me in one direction is seeing another one of my friends who is now living with his girlfriend, and those two met in their workplace. What are your thoughts? Is this something I should pursue? Thanks as always for reading this with your eyeballs. Jeffrey, here's my thoughts, man. I have never, ever dated someone or slept with someone or pursued anyone I worked with. I was actually always very careful to avoid that very much because I always did jobs I loved and wanted and couldn't risk losing. If you're going to pursue a relationship with someone you work with, be prepared to not have that job. Be prepared to maybe need to find a different form of employment because it can be, even if it works out, it's still weird often and maybe you get in trouble, maybe not. But also if it doesn't work out, do you want to see that person all the time? There's a really common phrase, don't shit where you eat. Be thoughtful before you do that. And if you're going to date someone you work with, maybe pursue a different job. Maybe be willing to lose your job. Really ask yourself, is this person and my relationship with this person more important to me than my form of employment? If it's a crappy job you don't care about and you can find another job of similar worth, then who cares? Just pursue the relationship, and if you get fired or it goes badly, you can always find another job. But if it's a job you really need and it's really important to you, maybe your job should take priority over that relationship. And it's really up to you to figure that out. I know this is also an older question, so it's probably by this point is played out, but I'll just say like my general advice to any friends of mine, don't date people at work. It's really sketchy. It's confusing. It can lead to you getting fired. There can also be often miscommunications. I know a guy at, I don't want to say where, there are people everywhere who get fired for miscommunications and they make the wrong person uncomfortable. And it's genuinely miscommunication, but it doesn't matter. You're going to lose your job and get fired. So be really thoughtful before you pursue a relationship in any kind of workplace and ask yourself whether you're willing to give up the job. Because if you're not willing to give up the job, then probably don't do something that puts you at risk of doing that and losing the job. That's all my advice, though, man. I really appreciate you, Jeffrey. I'm rooting for you. Follow up, right? And let me know how that worked out. I'm really curious. Guys, I'm so excited for football this weekend. We got 2 games down. The Cowboys-Browns game in Cleveland is going to be massive. I cannot wait to see what happens in that football game. We're going to learn a lot about Cleveland. We're going to learn even more about Dak Prescott and the Dallas Cowboys. I can't wait for that game. Falcons Steelers. I think the Falcons probably run away with one. I have the Falcons defense on my fantasy team partially because there's questions about whether Russell Wilson's going to play. He's got an injury. It might be Justin Fields. I drafted and started Atlanta across the board in all 4 of my fantasy leagues because I found out, hey, they're playing Pittsburgh week 1. Let's do it. That's awesome. Bills Cardinals, Nathan talked about it in our last episode. It's a really interesting litmus test for those 2 teams. Titans Bears, 2 young quarterbacks, Caleb Williams, Will Levis. That's going to be really fun. Bengals feel like they're going to destroy the Patriots and Jacoby Brissett. Texans Colts, hallelujah! 2 quarterbacks in their second year. Anthony Richardson, CJ Stroud. Can Anthony Richardson beat CJ Stroud? How cool would that be if the Colts won and beat Houston? It would shock a lot of people. Dolphins Jaguars, the Battle of Florida, 2 really fun games there, or a really fun game there. Vikings Giants, the Toilet Bowl. Really the question is, does Sam Darnold look really good against the Giants? Panthers Saints, can Bryce Young look really good in year 2 with a new coach? Let's find out. Raiders, Chargers. Can Jim Harbaugh win week 1 against an established team? Antonio Pierce, Gardner Minshew, a quarterback who's been in the league for a while. That's an interesting game, really close one. Denver, Seattle. Bo Nix, what does he look like in game 1? Can Sean Payton win his first game with Bo Nix against a rookie head coach, Mike McDonald, in Seattle? Jaden Daniels against Tampa. Commanders, Tampa. I can't wait to watch the former Heisman Trophy winning quarterback look, I think, really good and surprise a lot of people against Tampa. Sunday Night Football, we've got the Rams in Detroit against the Lions. Matthew Stafford for the second year in a row going back to Detroit to play a game at Ford Field. Look, some of the excitement of this got kind of taken out because last year they played a playoff game, the exact same matchup. I'm like, yeah, we've already seen the Matthew Stafford return, but either way, it's going to be fun and interesting. Two really good teams, two really good quarterbacks who got traded for each other. And anytime you're watching two good football teams that are playoff contenders play against each other week 1, it's really fascinating. And then, to me, the most exciting game of the weekend, by far. Aaron Rodgers in a Jets uniform against his childhood favorite team, the San Francisco 49ers game in Santa Clara, California. Jets at 49ers on Monday Night Football. The storyline to me that I'm actually really curious about, A, look, Aaron Rodgers, obviously, but B, Mike Williams, the receiver from the LA Chargers, came over to the Jets. He's a veteran receiver. I think he's a really overlooked player who fits perfectly with what Aaron Rodgers is looking for from a receiver. What does Mike Williams look like against the 49ers in game 1? That's what I want to find out. I think Aaron Rodgers is going to be awesome. Jets, 49ers. Robert Saleh, the head coach of the Jets, used to be the 49ers defensive coordinator. When they lost their first Super Bowl against Kansas City, he was their defensive coordinator. He knows Kyle Shanahan really well. They're buds. Jets 49ers is a really, really incredible game. I cannot wait to watch. We are going to learn so much from week 1 of the NFL season. I can't wait to talk about it on Tuesday with Nathan. Guys, enjoy NFL week 1. It's going to be incredible and fun. Have a great one. I love you. I appreciate you. And bam, we are done.